Look at some of those. The first by-election of this parliament, and it's a win for Reform, a party that barely scratched the surface in the general election.
Not the usual suspects, not the serial rebels, saying clearly to the government, we cannot support these measures.
Reform UK just stormed across Britain, seizing 10 councils while Labour lost 189 councillors. The political earthquake nobody saw coming has left Keir Starmer reportedly exploding with rage behind closed doors. The Labour leader's carefully crafted image is crumbling as his party's performance falls dramatically short of expectations.
24 hours, I think, is really the story of the election. Labour down, in fact, more than the Tories at the hands of Reform, and I think that's a big deal.
Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats have leapfrogged Labour into second place nationally. What's really happening inside Labour HQ right now? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Recent documents from inside Labour HQ paint a disturbing picture. Keir Starmer reportedly exploding with rage when confronted with the devastating election results. This isn't just typical political frustration. It's the reaction of a man watching his carefully constructed facade crumble before his eyes.
Now Reform is getting close to 40% of the vote in areas like this. This is why I think you'll hear talk about British politics changing.
For years, Starmer methodically crafted an image as the competent alternative to Conservative chaos. His strategy was simple: promise change without committing to specifics, present himself as the reasonable adult in the room. This approach initially seemed effective, with Labour consistently leading national polls, but something went terribly wrong. The local election results tell the real story. Labour lost 189 councillors, while Reform UK gained significant ground. This wasn't supposed to happen. A party leading in the polls should be gaining seats, not hemorrhaging them. The electoral mathematics exposed the fundamental weakness in Starmer's political strategy. The winter fuel payment cuts exemplify Starmer's miscalculations.
Can the Prime Minister explain to Britain's low-income pensioners why he has taken money away from them?
In attempting to appear fiscally responsible, he sparked a rebellion within his own ranks. Dan Carden, leader of the Blue Labour group, stated plainly that the winter fuel cut was the wrong choice, and voters haven't forgiven the government. MP Rachel Maskell directly blamed these cuts for Labour's poor performance, while Richard Bergen called the defeat entirely avoidable and the direct result of leadership's choices. Starmer's reliance on vague promises while attacking opponents has worn thin with voters.
Not the usual suspects, not the serial rebels, saying clearly to the government, we cannot support these measures.
People want substance, not empty rhetoric. The political terrain has shifted, yet Starmer continues with tactics that no longer resonate. Internal frustration within Labour grows daily. Senior figures now openly question Starmer's political instincts. The blame game has begun in earnest, with factions forming and potential leadership challenges watching from the shadows. Angela Rayner observes the situation carefully, positioning herself as elections approach. Perhaps most telling is the Liberal Democrats leapfrogging Labour into second place nationally, picking up 163 seats and control of 3 councils. This isn't merely political movement, it represents a collapse in confidence in Starmer's approach.
Straight over here to look at what changed in order to give Reform that advantage. You can see the Reform vote going up 20 percentage points.
The carefully constructed political persona Starmer built is unravelling rapidly. His tricks, the vague promises, calculated media management, and opposition attacks simply don't work anymore. Britain has awakened to these political games and voters are rejecting them outright. The question isn't whether Starmer is angry behind closed doors. The real question is whether his leadership can survive this political earthquake. With the traditional two-party system officially on life support,
Nigel Farage has just performed the most stunning result in 2 by-elections and council elections where Reform has surged ahead, winning extraordinary.
Starmer faces not just an electoral challenge but an existential one. Reform UK didn't just win a few seats in the recent elections, they stormed across Britain, seizing control of 10 councils and securing and 77 councillor positions. This wasn't merely a good night for reform, it was a political revolution that has shattered the traditional power structure.
Look at some of those. The first by-election of this parliament, and it's a win for reform, a party that barely scratched the surface in the general election.
The unprecedented shift reveals something far deeper than typical electoral movement. It exposes a fundamental rejection of political establishments that voters perceive as disconnected from their daily struggles. British voters have grown increasingly frustrated with politicians who seem to live in a different reality. Starmer's strategic positioning as not Boris Johnson and not Rishi Sunak has created a vacuum where actual policy should exist. While Starmer carefully avoided committing to specific solutions, Reform UK eagerly filled this void with direct promises and clear positions that resonated with disenchanted voters. The pension credit scandal perfectly illustrates this disconnect. Nearly 1.4 million older people currently miss out on vital support, while Starmer's government cuts winter fuel payments.
While also having a Labour Party and a country that have voted for change and a change in government. Now, Starmer...
It's also his decision that a pensioner living on just £13,000 will have their winter fuel allowance removed.
This decision, made far from the cold reality faced by pensioners choosing between heating and eating, exemplifies why voters no longer trust establishment figures like Starmer to understand their concerns. What makes this revolt particularly striking is how Reform UK and the Liberal Democrats offer specific solutions, while Labour remains trapped in vague promises and political posturing. These smaller parties speak directly to voter concerns rather than hiding behind carefully crafted media statements and focus group tested talking points. Internal Labour documents reveal growing panic as focus groups consistently show voters view Starmer as inauthentic and just another politician, despite years of image crafting. The carefully managed persona is crumbling under the weight of its own artifice. Voters see through the performance to the emptiness beneath. The Conservative collapse has masked Labour's fundamental weaknesses for years, creating an illusion of strength through comparison. But the local elections have now exposed these vulnerabilities for all to see. What happens when a political leader's entire strategy is built on image rather than substance? We're witnessing the answer in real time. The truth is simple. Voters are done with being patronised by establishment politicians. They seek authentic alternatives that speak to their real concerns, explaining why Starmer's carefully managed persona is failing spectacularly. The political landscape is shifting dramatically as people reject the traditional two-party system. And Starmer appears unable to adapt to this new reality. A one-term Prime Minister is no longer a far-fetched outcome, it's becoming the likely one. Starmer's political tricks have clearly reached their expiration date. The vague promises, careful media management, and polished image no longer convince voters who demand substance over performance.
Things are changing, and voters that we didn't think might be appealed by Reform UK are, and that's important.
Grassroots Labour activists are reportedly livid, while MPs grow increasingly restless. The real question isn't about Starmer's closed-door tantrums, but whether his leadership can adapt to a political landscape where authenticity beats calculation. His failure to gain ground while losing councillors exposes the growing discontent both within his party and among voters. As Reform UK rises, the public has declared they are done with your games and taking our country back. The British political system faces its most significant transformation in decades, with or without Starmer.